Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's meeting, March 11th, of the Topsfield Conservation Commission. As usual, I have to read this note from the government. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2022 and H.62, as amended by S.2506, this meeting public hearing will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so in the following manner. For a Zoom meeting, see the connection below to join the meeting and Zoom video conference or by calling in by phone. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with the right or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Topsfield Town website at topsfield-ma.gov, period. You may also reach out to conservation at conservation-topsfield-ma.gov or by calling in 978-887-1510 for information or assistance. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, and public participation in any hearing can be conducted during, participation of any public hearing conducted during this meeting shall be by remote means only and by called on by the chair. Okay, so we'll start tonight's meeting with a request for a certificate of compliance on OOC 3070844 for 46 Alderbrook Drive, map 68, lot 15, wetlands and land management. Dardakios, hope I said that correctly. And Jackie, you want to take it from there, or do you want me to just say it was asked for continuance because you couldn't see because of the snow?
Yeah, so the first thing on the agenda, the request for certificate of compliance, the applicant agreed to a continuance to the next meeting on April 9th.
Well, I sure hope we can see the land by then.
Are we sure it's the 9th? Because I'm looking at the
Do we need to
calendar.
vote on that?
Are we sure it's the 9th? Because the other page, it says the next meeting is the
Sorry,
8th.
8th.
The 8th,
Sorry.
Wednesday,
Oh.
the 8th.
The 8th, okay.
Okay, yeah,
good.
yeah, it is the 8th. I'm looking at my calendar.
Good catch, Jen.
No, that's okay. I will make a motion that we continue discussion on the request for certificate of compliance for OOC 307-0844 for 46 Alderbrook Drive to our April 8th, 2026 meeting.
I second the motion.
And how do we vote? Dodd Shamrock, aye.
Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Maureen Bresnahan, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
Good. Okay, we'll see you folks on the 8th, hopefully. The next, we have a hearing, or rather an RDNI 2026-02 for 5 Fox Run Road, map 47, lot 28, Pearlman. Request to remove 2 trees.
So I believe the applicant is here.
Good.
This was a request to remove 2 trees. I can share the RDNI on my screen. I got the arborist report that said that the trees, one is structurally unstable and one is declining in health and has lost 2 leaders, and both were a safety hazard according to the arborist. I'll show photos in a second. But Mark, did you have anything to add?
I don't think so. I mean, one of the trees is, really fallen apart. It has a couple huge branches that have fallen off, and the other one is kind of like rotting too, according to the arborist. And then he said in like a year or two, it's going to have sort of the same fate as this tree you're seeing here. And you can tell, on the other tree that the kind of the trunk is like rotting, and it's not in good health. So we're looking at both those removed.
And here's the other one. Look closely at the trunk, you can kind of see that there's an issue there,
Oh, yes.
unfortunately. Yeah, so I think I'd recommend approving the determination of negligible impact for this one. The our tree policy requires that if the trees are not dead, that you plant replacement trees. They would just have to be native species of trees of your choosing within the wetland buffer zone or riverfront area. So within our conservation jurisdiction somewhere on your property. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Good.
And then the arborist noted that it could be removed from the driveway without machinery in the wetlands. So that's that'll also be necessary to comply with our tree policy. I think otherwise just our standard conditions.
Understood.
Are there any other comment on this from anyone?
No,
We have
No,
a
pretty
motion?
straightforward.
Okay, we have a motion.
I can make a motion that we issue a determination of negligible impact for RDNI 2026-02 at 5 Fox Run Road with our standard conditions, including the replacement of two replacement trees to be planted within riverfront area within 6 months.
I second the motion.
And how do we vote? Shamrock, aye.
Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Maureen Bresnahan, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
Mark, thanks for coming in with that.
Yep, and I'll
Thank
have
you.
it ready. I'll send it to you within probably the next week.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have a hearing in NOI 3070873 for School Avenue and 10 School Avenue, map 41, lot 60, Topsfield Garages LLC. A request for redevelopment of School Street. And are we doing both at once, Jackie?
I think it would make sense to do both at once.
Yeah,
I recently learned that that's allowed.
yeah. NO3 3070872 for 10 School Avenue and 35 Main Street. Map 41, lot 60, and map 41, lot 133. The Topsfield Garages and Hancock Associates request for development of subject lots, including construction of restaurant and associated apertures, and also for Topsfield Garages and redevelopment of School Street. And do you want to start, or do you want to start with the representative? Or?
Yeah, I think let's start with the representatives. If you want to give the commission an update on the peer review and the changes you made in response to the peer review and DEP comments.
Yep, no problem. Jay Blackowitz with Hancock Associates, and thank you for allowing me to go both of them at once. I was probably going to do it anyway. So,
Of course, yeah.
yeah. So the updates are the same for both projects, really. Since the last time we were in front of the commission, we had a site walk with the commission, and a member of the ZBA attended as well. We received comments from DEP. We received comments from a peer review. We have provided responses, one response letter, updated plan, stormwater report to the peer reviewer, DEP, and to the commission earlier this week. And I assume you guys have received that, maybe not had a chance to review, but you should have it. And then this morning, we also received approval from the Board of Health for the 10 School Ave septic system. And I think that gets me up to date on the updates on the project. If you want, I can go one by one through the peer review comments and explain the changes, or answer any questions, or if you guys had a chance to read the letter, may explain a lot of it.
It was a lot to read. I'm not through all of it, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe go through the comments. I think that would make sense.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
Thanks.
Can everyone see this?
No. Yes.
Yep, now I can.
Okay. So I'm gonna kind of flip back and forth. The first comment was just confirming the area of the two lots on our site plan. I'll just also preface this. Most all the comments were on the restaurant property, not the school Ave itself. But we provided an area table on our existing conditions plan outlining the area of both lots. The next one is confirming the net impervious decrease in post-development impervious area and documenting it on the site plans. So we have an area breakdown that we provided on this sheet right here. We break it down to impervious area, pavement and walkway area, grass, vegetated, wooded, and gravel areas. So these are the impervious areas, and these are the pervious areas down here. As you can see, there is a slight increase in impervious area, but we are mitigating that with the stormwater system. The next one. Also within that, this is also a DEP comment, was just discussing the areas that are degraded. Some of them were called grass/gravel. So we took photos of those areas. So they look something like this and like this. So they are gravel. Just the property has not been maintained over the years. Like this.
Oh, right.
So it's starting to overgrow. So basically, it's predominantly gravel. It is degraded of topsoil, and just over the years, grass has started to go to the gravel. I'm sure a lot of that was seen during the sidewalk by the members that attended. Clarifying areas to be cleared and regraded for the septic system. So this is our site preparation and erosion control plan. So this is essentially the demo plan. We call out the area of the septic system to be cleared over here. Also within our stormwater report, we give a small, let me see, let me just pull it up quick. 1 second.
Which document are you referring to? I can't make it out on my iPad. I need to see it on the big screen. What's the title of the document?
Which one? The plan
The one
set
you're
or the
showing.
Last
We can
one.
have,
this plan? This is the site
Yes.
preparation and erosion control plan. This is our site plan set
okay,
for School Ave.
yep.
I'm going to flip to the stormwater report just very briefly, but I'll be back to this. So we give these drainage figures, and this is where our area is calculated for our subcatchments and hydrocad. Previously, we hadn't included the septic area because it's switching from pervious area to pervious area. However, it's different ground cover, so it's going from wooded to grass, so there's a slightly different curve number. We updated our calculations to include that. So that was the response to that comment. Confirming the trench drain is not in conflict with sanitary and storm piping. We adjusted our pipe inverts to make sure there's no conflict. Please identify areas of mitigation, suggest ground cover and seed mixes. So I found out that the peer reviewer didn't actually get a copy of the landscape plan. So and that's why we called it out as mitigation, but he thought there was no plantings proposed. But once I gave him the landscaping plan, I think that answered a lot of his questions. So the next one is about the regulatory floodway. So I'm gonna go to the existing conditions plan. So on this site, School Brook has a FEMA flood zone AE that's within it, let's say. And that, because it's an AE, it has an elevation associated with that. That elevation changes through different cross sections. So one of those cross sections can be seen here, H, it's called on the FEMA firm panels. That means that at H to I, the floodplain elevation is 58.2. So we had shown that on our plans. However, we had shown the regulatory floodway in a graphical manner is what's shown on the firm panel. However, the peer reviewer provided us with information on these cross sections and what the regulatory floodway widths are through those sections. So rather than showing it graphically, it's more mathematically done now. That floodway in section H to I believe is 15 feet wide. So from the center line of that brook, it's 7.5 feet either side. I may have that number. I can actually just double check it right now. From G to H is 15 feet, and from H to I is 18 feet wide. So we are showing that regulatory floodway. That would be this line here. It's 18 feet wide. Kind of missed it. And then it jogs in and then goes down to 15 feet wide once we cross this cross section that goes across the plan here.
Mhm.
Peer reviewer also want to make sure that there was no structures proposed within the regulatory floodway, and they're not. There's only some very minor grading that's proposed within the flood zone. So this is our grading and drainage plan. And the grading is associated with this outfall here. The outfall itself is outside of the flood zone, or the regulatory floodway, but there's a little bit of grading in there. It's only a 5 cubic yard cut, so that's a very minor cut. And where it is a cut, we don't need to compensate for it anywhere else because we're adding flood storage. We added a notation about BLSF being another resource area located on this site. Like I said, the areas that we are working within the flood zone, we are maintaining existing grades. Most of it's just removing pavement and planting plants. And so what existing grade is will become the proposed grade, with the exception of that outfall, which has a 5 cubic yard cut, which again meets the flood standards and performance standards because we are not increasing or decreasing flood storage, we're increasing flood storage. We provided riprap dissipation calculations in our stormwater report. That's these calculations here. So that riprap dissipation pad is adjacent to the regulatory floodway. Like I said, it's not actually within it, but there could be a chance that if I guess there is a very large storm that the floodwaters could go beyond it. The peer reviewer wanted to make sure that with the velocities that are published in those cross sections, that the riprap is basically big enough that it won't be washed down the stream. We ran the calculation on that. We're providing 6-inch riprap stones, and we needed 2.13-inch stones minimum. So we're exceeding that. Reviewability of CB3 to be routed to DMH3. So I think it'll be easiest to go to this one. So here's requesting this catch basin to go to this drain manhole. But we can't because of the septic tank that's here. Due to setbacks to the stormwater system, groundwater, property lines, and the flood zones, we really can't move these tanks much. Because this would be a pretty significant move. We get too close to that flood zone to meet DEP standards for septic components. So the reason why he suggested going to this manhole is because this is the outfall here. So basically, there's a chance that this water could go straight to the outfall before going to the chamber system. However, we raised this pipe, so the water does not have the ability to go to bypass the chamber system. It will go into the chamber system first. Eventually, when the chamber system is very full, it will go out of that pipe, but that's only in the larger storm events. He asked for level spreader sizing calculations, which these are the level spreader sizing calculations here. Trench drain detail not included. We added trench drain details.
I'm sorry, can I ask a quick question before you move
Yeah.
too much further on? So on
Yeah.
that plan with the septic,
Mhm.
is that a leach field that we're looking at? No.
Those are tanks. There are 9 septic tanks.
Okay, but the field that's adjacent to the structure, can you go back to that?
The septic field is out here.
Oh, okay, okay. So,
This
oh
is
wow. So the field is in the like the side of the building or like across School Ave, and then the tanks are in front.
correct. So septic tanks need to be a foot, the lowest invert needs to be a foot above estimated seasonal high groundwater. The site generally has high groundwater. The best soil test that we found is where this chamber system is. This is the stormwater infiltration system. It's subsurface. Um, so these tanks basically need to be in the same place as the stormwater system because that's where we got the best results. So that's why they have to stay over here.
But then are they releasing and going to the leach field from the tank?
No, so they go into a pipe here. It's a pump.
Okay.
It's a
Oh, okay. I was gonna
recirculating
say
pump.
that's a long distance to go. That's pretty long distance.
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess
yeah. So this is it's a pump system. This is I believe it's a Perk-Rite septic system, so it's a recirculating. But yeah, it's pumped uphill and all the way over here. It's a couple 100 feet that it pumps. But
okay.
that system's designed for that.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying. Sorry to derail you. I was just
Yeah, no
curious.
problem. Um, the peer reviewer suggests changing the name of a catch basin to outlet control structure, so we did that. Um, again, just clarifying the septic field. Like I said, it changes that ground cover, which we updated in our stormwater report. Basically the same comment again, about that ground cover and the septic field, which was addressed. Um, when we subdivided this land back in 2021 for the town of Topsfield, when we split off the fire station and the DPW building, we had done a definitive subdivision plan. Part of the definitive subdivision checklist is that any drainage or floodway or culvert has a drainage easement placed on top of it, which we included in our plan set. There was also an access easement from School Ave through the subject property up to the fire department, so the fire department can still access it. But none of those easements were recorded with the Registry of Deeds. So we just had a meeting with the town administrator earlier this week on Monday afternoon to discuss that, and he is working on getting those easements filed at the Registry of Deeds. So that'll be handled before the sale of the property. Um, so NIPD's construction general permit will be required for this project because it's over an acre of disturbance. We're aware of that, and we will file that 6 weeks before construction starts. But we need to file the finalized plans once they're approved. Include hydrographs in our HydroCAD model. So that's what these are. Peer reviewer had a question on the number of chambers that we're modeling because it's not rectangular. We need to show it as 2 fields. So basically, it's 6 chambers. A rectangle will be 6 chambers wide, 6 chambers long, but we don't have that. We're missing a chamber basically on this corner. So we need to model it as 2 fields. So it's a 5x6 and then a 1x4 for a total of 34 chambers. We added inspection ports to each chamber row, which is these circles. The water main in School Ave is asbestos concrete, which has specific requirements for handling and installation. We noted that on the plan. So that's all the peer review comments. A lot of the DEP comments were echoed in the peer review. So a lot of these will have the same responses. Alteration of BLSF must be quantified. As I said, there's a 5 cubic yard cut required for that. We meet the performance standards because we aren't changing grade anywhere else. Unable to identify the project meets applicable performance standards. So that's the riverfront performance standards. basically for a redevelopment. So I'll explain this quickly. This is our riverfront redevelopment calculations. The total site is about, let's call it 101 thousand square feet. Total riverfront is this 86,000 number. Existing degraded is a 31,000. Proposed degraded is 28,000. So that means that we have a net change in degraded area of 2,617 square feet. So that's a reduction. However, as you know, there are two projects going on in the same area. Because we're adding the sidewalk to School Ave, that is new degraded area. So we're offsetting that on the 10 School Avenue property. In this location hatched in green. So for every square foot of new degraded area for the sidewalk, we are providing 2 square feet of mitigation on this property. What this table notes is that there's, of this 2,600 square feet of mitigation, 1,900 square feet of it's already reserved for the other project, meaning that there's still about 700 square foot net reduction for the 10 School Ave property. We aren't double counting anything, basically. And that we're increasing, then this last row just says we're increasing vegetated area. So we gave a written response to how that table is supposed to read. It was a little bit difficult to how to quantify mitigation area and degraded area because technically that area used for the School Ave project is not degraded, but we also can't consider it mitigation because it's already used. So we did the best we could to try to explain that. Existing degraded riverfront area must be quantified. Developed area is not a regulatory term. Grassy area is not degraded. So the reviewer wanted us to change. We had called it developed area. We changed it to degraded area. And again, just like those pictures I had shown in the beginning, they're grassy because they're overgrown. They are degraded. They don't have any they don't have any topsoil. It's gravel that some grass is growing through. So this comment is basically saying that the commission should confirm that because it's the roadway project is a redevelopment, that they're saying that the commission should confirm that we're meeting the standards to the maximum extent practicable. The peer reviewer has reviewed that, didn't have any comments saying that we're not meeting it to the maximum extent practicable. The reason why this is actually this is for the restaurant, but the reason why our stormwater report for the roadway is a little bit vague. We say that we are providing stormwater, but because it's separate into two different filings, we didn't want to include all the work for the filing for the roadway, or for the restaurant project for the roadway. We didn't want them to it's a town's project. We didn't want to get them stuck with installing a chamber system and catch basins and everything like that. So we said that we met it to the maximum extent practicable for that project. And basically, our responses to DP on that is the project is being peer reviewed. It's for stormwater, and that the peer reviewer will provide any comments if they think anything is not up to par. So we didn't receive any comments like that, just minor technical comments and clarifications. So same comment again. This is for the next one. This is the roadway project that degraded. We have to call it degraded, not developed. We change that, and then the grassy areas again. They're overgrown. And then again, just how the project's being meant to the maximum extent practicable. I don't know why this comment was twice in here, because the roadway project is a redevelopment. The restaurant is not a redevelopment. We are meeting the standards, not meeting the standards to the maximum extent practicable for the restaurant. So since we were at the commission last, we also had to make some other changes based on comments from abutters, ZBA, the plumbing, the mechanical, electric, and plumbing engineer, MEP, is developing their plans while we're going, and we've had to add a few things. We included a photometric plan. I'm assuming you guys don't need to see that. It shows where light poles are and how many foot candles are from the light poles. We moved the dumpster away from the property line per an abutter's request. We had an 8-foot fence per the abutter's request. One of the abutters is concerned about the existing erosion that happens back here. This is a very steep slope that was cut when the DBW building was built. And they say in large storm events that this starts to erode away. So we are alleviating that steep slope by doing a small boulder retaining wall. This wall, I think, is maybe 3 feet tall. It's just going to be boulders that are found from site, and then that will soften the slope, so the abutter won't see any sort of erosion at their property line. We added HVAC units. Like I said, the MEP is getting involved in this project because the restaurant will need a lot of refrigeration units. We added a generator. So the generator's up here. And this generator that's shown is the biggest possible generator that they could get. We're just showing it there for now. We still have to work out what size it'll be. Here are the HVAC units down here. And the HVAC units will be in a mulch bed. Previously, we had shown roof drain piping down in this area, assuming that the gutters would come down this way. But they're going the opposite direction, so we added a pipe collecting the gutters up on this side of the building. Doesn't change any of the stormwater calcs because all of the roof area was modeled as going to the stormwater system anyway. And we had previously called out precast concrete curb in some places. We got rid of that and did Cape Cod berm instead. But yeah, those are all the changes we've made to the plans. And we gave them to the peer review. I don't think Greg has had a chance to look at them yet. I know DEP received the updated plans and letter because the agent emailed me back this morning saying she got them. But yeah, with that, I can answer any questions if anyone has any.
Can I ask why the leach field was not able to go under the parking lot on 35R Main Street?
So 35R Main Street. So 35R Main Street, the lot line's here. I assume that's what you just mean this parking lot.
Sorry, I mean the one that's right above it. Yep.
Yeah. So it all comes down to the groundwater elevations and the soil types. The groundwater, well, again, I also didn't do the septic design. So we were working with Chuck Johnson who did the design, and it was a relationship of perk rates and high groundwater that made it difficult for a system to go over here. The site generally has high groundwater. So wherever we could find lower groundwater, that's where it was more preferable, less grading, and a smaller system because the perk rates were better.
Yeah, I was just thinking if it was possible to take it out of there, there would be a lot less tree clearing needed. And I know that's something one of the abutters was concerned about, the tree clearing, and it does look like there's quite a bit of, in that table, there's quite a bit of change in wooded area. So I'm just wondering if there was any consideration of alternatives to reduce the amount of wooded area that needs to be cleared.
Again, I didn't do the design on it, but just what I'm kind of going off of what was told to me, that those test pits were just not preferable test pits. The system was going to be larger and was going to require a lot more filling. So it'd be a lot higher than existing grade. And even though we are removing trees, we're planting a lot of new trees. Here is the planting plan here. And that septic field will be somewhat renaturalized. It's not going to be like a mowed lawn. There'll be grass that can grow there. We just can't have actual trees growing through it, but vegetation will be able to grow out there to a degree.
Hello. Hi, Jackie. Hi, Commission. My name's Brig Leland, and I'm on the project team as well. Tim Collins was not able to join us tonight, but I just want to chime in. So, Jackie, to your point, we did meet with all the abutters. Their comments about removals of trees, I believe we've addressed because we're trying to, at least with the abutters that are impacted the most, those are the ones on the north side, so Mahoney, Powers, and Crocker. We had discussed maintaining as many trees as possible that are in good condition and not negatively impacting the fence that we have offered to build. So I feel like my understanding is that's no longer an abutter concern. And then in terms of the location of the septic system and the leach field. I mean, as Jay pointed out, I just echo that we've evaluated this as you all probably know for many months the ideal locations, and so we did evaluate and consider having the leach field in other locations, including higher up, for example, where that parking lot, the supplemental parking lot you were describing, we considered all those options, but we and our goal is obviously not to minimize disturbances, but my understanding, and I'm not an expert, but we ended up where it is because that's the ideal location for both the tanks and the leach field.
And this location is, thank you, Brig, by the way. This location is a huge upgrade from where the existing system is. The existing system's right here. It's maybe 20 feet from the brook, which is not allowable by today's code. This is a fully compliant system, per DEP.
Thank you. I guess I'm wondering also for the wooded area calculations, did you include the new tree plantings in that, or was that just counted in the planted areas?
No, that was considered planted or vegetated area. And those it comes down to more what ground cover is. Those are broken up by how HydroCAD does it, which is curve number. So that takes into consideration like let's call it leaves, sticks, grass, and things like that on the ground. So the peer reviewer wanted us to have it consistent from HydroCAD to our plan set to the notice of intent narrative. So no, it doesn't include the landscaped areas, and that's just more of a technical thing.
Okay, so that means that the decrease in wooded area would not be quite as extreme once those trees grow in.
For sure. There's a lot of trees that are proposed, and a lot of this, especially this area kind of over by the brook, is supposed to be more of a natural style landscape. So that will have trees, bushes, flowers, grasses, supposed to be more natural, low maintenance, native species. Up near the building, it is still native, but a little bit more, I guess, ornamental, I guess you could say. It's going to look better, less natural. Then up in this area again, it'll be a little bit more natural.
Thank you. I guess another, if anyone else had questions on septic, I'll let you ask, but I had another question on the ground cover and degraded area. Did anyone else have anything septic related or tree related?
No, thank you though.
Yeah, I guess moving on to the calculations with the degraded area versus non-degraded. That was something the peer review comment on, and I feel like they were what he was getting at was that the areas with the gravel, they do have some level of vegetation growing in them, although it's not definitely not natural. I know DEP's opinion is that if there's anything growing on it, then it's not absent of topsoil. And the criteria you were using to consider it degraded was that there's an absence of topsoil due to the gravel. I guess I just want to point that out. I know it's ultimately up to the Conservation Commission to decide whether it's degraded or not degraded, and whether you would consider that to be an absence of topsoil. But I know DEP says that whenever there's something growing in it, even if it's just grass or whatnot, that it's considered non-degraded. So that affects the calculation of the amount of restoration and mitigation required.
And just to thank you, Jackie. Just to clarify, these are the kinds of areas that we consider degraded, where you see these bulk material storage, and over here as well, with the grass growing through. Areas like this were not considered degraded, or up in front of this building here, that's considered, I don't know, non-degraded, I guess. It's the areas that if you go and walk the site, maybe something like this, where you would definitely think that there is no natural topsoil there. But we were pretty selective in what we considered that.
Okay, I appreciate that explanation. I wonder if, I don't know if you showed it on the plan, like a depiction of where the degraded versus non-degraded area is throughout the site, but I think that would be helpful to look at that on site now that the snow has melted, and compare it and make sure that we agree that it is degraded or not in those various places, and understand which ones are being counted for that.
Okay, yeah, it's just been difficult. There's been 3 feet of snow on it.
Yeah,
So
understandably.
these are just pictures we had just on file. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, we can pull something together like that.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Um,
Can I ask a question about that? I don't want to interrupt.
yeah, go ahead.
Jay, how difficult is it to put that map together, especially given the snow coverage and stuff like that? Like, is that something that we can do this week, or have you already done something similar to
I mean, I can
calculation?
try to, quantify it now, I guess. So there's a big gravel area over here. There's this area that we were just looking at, as well as this area over here. We have an area as well over here. Part of this is planted. So we considered about like this. Here, I'll try to get rid of the old yellow stuff. Sorry. Wait. I want to delete, but yeah, so basically what I'm showing in yellow are the areas that we consider degraded that also have some level of vegetation growing through them. Yeah, so we can try to formalize something like this.
Yeah, that would be really helpful, and maybe it could just be color coded or something just to show the areas so we know where that calculation came from, to make sure that DEP comment is addressed to for DEP's sake.
We really appreciate it when people show their math and make it easy for us to understand the numbers.
Yep, no problem.
Yeah, I think those were my only major thoughts. I mean, the other thing is that the peer reviewer agreed to do a second round of review, but was not able to complete that. Just comments on these comments on the comments on the comments at this point. But I do think that would be helpful to clarify that some of those technical answers um, are meeting all the requirements. And the peer reviewer said that it could be done before our April meeting. I guess if that graphic can be ready soon, I'll send it to the peer reviewer. Maybe that'll help answer their questions too, if they still have any concerns. Yeah, did anyone on
Yeah.
the commission have any further questions or comments?
Just, I think just to clarify that we did go out for that site visit, Andrew, myself, and we met the applicant. Ben, were you there? No, you weren't there, but I think you wanted to be there. So we went there. It was freezing day. Jackie was there. I thought we were going to get frostbite, but it was, it was interesting to walk the site. We definitely got a better sense of the site and the areas, the areas of concern. And of course, I think there was like some snow and ice at that point too, but nothing. It wasn't like now. I think it was snowed significantly afterwards, and sort of got a better understanding of. Because I think your concern, Ben, was just about the crosswalk coming down the street, and when you're there, it's all kind of normal. Nothing was really out of the ordinary in terms of the location of where that would be. And Jackie, I don't know if you agree or disagree. Um, it seems like it's all gonna, flow into School Ave, and then, pedestrian traffic will just flow down there and head towards Main Street, and but nothing weird because I know it would looked a little bit weird on the plan. The plan doesn't really do it justice. It's kind of, I'm not criticizing your plan, but it's just like, it's a oddly shaped lots,
Yes.
two of them, so it's hard to follow. But you could see kind of obviously we walked the building, and it is kind of a diversely graded site, if you will. Everything behind the building kind of slopes upward. So, runoff, I suppose, comes down towards the the area in question, the brook or whatever. But I mean, it's been there all this time, so I don't know that there's been major issues because of that.
Again, Jen, I think that firehouse must have been built before
Yeah,
70. So
yeah,
it really has been there and abandoned for a long time.
yeah, and it's already graded. I don't want to say improved, but it's like a semi kind of paved surface, right? It's pretty hard pack. So these site conditions exist. Yeah, we got to see where the street connects to like the fire station, and it sounds like is that going to be gated? I think they're going to
We're
Yes,
put.
it
still
will be
working it out with
gated.
the town.
Yeah.
What's that? Still trying to figure that out. Yeah, and that makes sense because it's a safety issue. But anyway, I just wanted to report that we did go on site. I really don't have anything alarming that I could report or, be overly concerned about based on observations on the site. And Jackie can probably speak to that as well. I think it's being addressed here, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I guess the only thing we weren't really able to see was the ground cover because of the snow on
Yeah.
the non-paved and plowed areas.
It was
So
like icy, right? I'm trying to remember the surface because it
it
was.
it was snowy. Like the snow was plowed in the parking lot, but there was snow covering the grass and all that. So
Yeah.
we weren't really able to see that, unfortunately. But um, I think I'll try to go back before the next meeting, and I hope that it's better in early April.
Yeah.
Maybe take some photos of like representative photos of the area.
Can I ask I keep asking questions and I apologize. Um, I'm not an expert in this field, but I'd be curious, are we at the point where the commission, Jennifer, thank you for coming to the property and the site visit, and Jackie as well. We've had a couple of meetings. We've presented the plans, we provided the comments to the peer review. Are we in a position where maybe we can get a vote now with if the peer review comes back positive and Mass DEP is positive, or is that something that we should plan to do next meeting? And the reason why I ask that is we have the approvals, as Jay said, we just got Board of Health approval. We're going to ZBA at the end of this month, and we're expecting to get ZBA approval. And we had thought that we would be able to start construction and start to really get this project going. And as soon as we got that ZBA approval. So I understand that there's still some work here, and so that's why I'm asking the question. And please excuse, I'm not an expert like you all. So your insights would be helpful in terms of the timing for getting your feedback and approval.
So Jackie, so the peer reviewer, is it these specific comments that you raised tonight that they're going to be dealing with?
No, I mean, they could also look at any comments from tonight, but the main thing would just be to review the applicant's response to their initial comments. It's typically part of a peer review to do that second sort of second run through and make sure they agree, but it's up to the commission whether or not to require that. They were not able to do it in time for this meeting because we only got the applicant response early this week and it wasn't enough time.
Seems like we have to close the loop with them, I think. I think that would be the most appropriate because they're the applicant's responding to their concerns. And so it would make sense that the peer reviewer would then look at those responses to make sure that they're adequate, even though we're sorry that it delays things for you, but to me, that's my opinion anyway.
Yeah. And I think Andrew wasn't here to
Yeah.
be here as well, and I think that's important.
Yeah, he did do the site visit, but definitely the peer review. I mean, that's the whole point of this, right? Is that the peer reviewer weighs in and then, that they're satisfied. So seems like we allow them to wrap up that process and hopefully they do it quickly in time for the April 8th meeting.
Yeah, they said that they could in time for the April meeting.
I just
mean,
don't know if they were substantive comments, like if it, going through Jay's point by point, it just seemed like a lot of it was also just like clarifications. But again, and I understand, Jennifer, where and Dodds where you all are at.
Yeah,
So
I understand where you are too. I mean, it's a big project.
yeah,
For sure, it's going to be beautiful.
can't wait.
That too. Me too, as a matter of fact. But
Yeah, I mean, Maureen or Ben, what do you guys think? Or sorry to put you on the spot.
No, you're not putting anybody on the spot. What you say, I think, is fair. What is the proposed impact, though? Again, you'd have to give me that timeline. I'm just curious. Again, you're saying when is the zoning board?
So the zoning board meeting is the 24th. And speaking of which, Jackie, if we could get peer review comments by the 24th, so we can at least tell the zoning board that we've closed out the peer review, that will help us get our approval then and not have us held up pending a peer review from conservation that could impact site plan review.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can definitely ask for it to be done by, you said the 24th.
Yeah. And
If
preferably a
zoning is
couple.
waiting for conservation, then maybe if the commission agrees that the peer reviewer being satisfied with the project would be sufficient for zoning board to sign off without waiting for conservation. then they would be able to do that.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah,
And
because if we don't get our zoning board approval on the 24th, then we're in the end of April, which, the
Oh,
conservation is already, kind of holding things up about a month. We just don't want to turn it into two if
right.
possible.
Jen? Jen,
Sorry. Oh, hold
you
on.
thinking?
Yeah, thinking through some things. So
Sorry, I was muted. I thought I was muted. Um, I think that we just wait for the peer review. We expedite it to 324, like Jackie said, and then, once they're happy, we come back on the 8th and finish it up. I don't know if that answers your question. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess
I
the
don't know if
question, oh, go ahead.
Jackie, is there some way that you could, or you or the commission or someone could relay over to the zoning board that if the peer review responses are satisfied, they're satisfactorily answered, that you guys would approve the plans? Something along the lines of that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Jen, I think that's the question is whether Conservation Commission is fine with the zoning board um approving this rather than waiting for us to approve it as like as long as the peer review comments are satisfactory.
is the peer review taking longer than normal?
I wouldn't say it's taking longer than normal, based on my past experience. I think um I was hoping we could get the second round of comments done by tonight's hearing, but it was a tight squeeze with the applicant's response to the initial peer review comments only coming in, I think, this Monday. Um, so there wasn't enough time really for them to give their second round of comments.
Yeah, and the documents that are provided, the second notice of intent that was submitted to the Conservation Commission is dated March 6th. It's only March 11th, so I don't think that the Conservation Commission has been a source of delay, really. And I would like to take time to look more carefully at the March 6th notice of intent before offering a conditional approval.
Yeah,
So
quickly
the
don't.
changes made to the notice of intent were just adding that BLSF is a resource area on site, and then we meet the performance standards. The peer reviewer also asked us to put that area breakdown calculation from our stormwater report on the plans and notice of intent, and that's why we added it in. So those are the only two changes.
We just typically don't do a conditional approval. I
Yeah.
don't, I don't remember that being the case. We typically work independently. Like when it comes to like Board of Health things, we want the Board of Health to have signed off before we take action. So I just, and not to be unnecessarily difficult, but I think this has progressed along kind of like the normal time frame, and it does involve the peer review. So I think let's just let the peer reviewer. Yeah, and if you guys disagree, we'll take it, I guess we could take a vote on it, but it just seems like we have this process in place. Let them close that out, and then we come back on the 8th, and this will be at the top of the agenda.
I would agree. Plus,
I
I
agree.
think Andrew should be in on it, Jen.
Yeah, he was at the site visit. He might have a totally different opinion based on what he observed. And I value his input just like I value yours. So, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a heck of a lot of discussion. But I think, it just makes sense for us to not like hinge anything on what ZBA is doing. It might
Yep.
be efficient for the applicant, but I don't think we're moving slow at all. We went out, we did the site visit. It was crappy conditions and we still showed, I mean, literally it was freezing conditions and we still showed up and in fact, I think we were supposed to accommodate the ZBA that day. Everybody was supposed to come from the ZBA. They weren't there. Um, so it's not, this is not to slight you guys, but just let's let the peer reviewer do their thing, review the comments, do what they're paid to do, come back to us. If it's all good, then we take a vote on it.
Mhm.
You know?
Sure. Were there, I guess obviously we're not going to take a vote today, but and Jackie, you had a number of just questions.
Right.
It sounds to me like, we're going to go into our next meeting. So long as that peer review is positive, there's not going to be any surprises. I mean, are there any concerns at this time that anybody has, or it seems like everything's just, once the peer review comes in and it is positive and they like Jay's responses, where we can say like we're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, the plans get updated too, right? Because we need the table, the degradation.
Right, that was an open question that Jackie had asked regarding, you know, which is paragraph 5 in the current March 6th notice of intent. So kind of the table that calculates the degraded area. I'd like to better understand that.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
And then-
I guess on the ZBA point, I think if we let them close without waiting for conservation approval, I feel like the only potential negative consequence of doing that would be that if the Conservation Commission asks for any significant changes to the plan after our next hearing, then, or our next meeting of this hearing, then they would potentially have to go back to ZBA for an amendment or something like that. That would be sort of, to me, I think that that's sort of the applicant's risk to take if they don't want ZBA to, if they want ZBA to close.
Right. So I'm going to ask them, Tim and I will ask the ZBA to make it conditional or upon, Conservation Commission. And then if there are changes that this commission requests, then we would probably have to go back to ZBA to get it amended. Gotcha.
So
Thank you
would that
for
solve
talking through that.
would that solve the concerns about I guess we wouldn't be giving a conditional approval. We would just be allowing ZBA to give an approval conditional on conservation approval on their end.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Would we have to do anything for that, Jackie?
I would just let ZBA know that I'm okay with them doing that based on the commission's discussion today.
I don't think we have any real control over what ZBA does, right? I mean, whether they do conditional approvals or not, I have no idea. Do they do conditional approvals? So I mean, I guess your word would have some influence on them, maybe to reassure them of what was expressed here, and they could certainly go back and look at the record. I mean, I don't know if they can access the video or whatever, but and certainly the applicant can represent truthfully what occurred here, but I don't know what other sway we would have over the ZBA's decision making. I don't think we would. I think it's a question of whether they're going to approve it, or if they even do a conditional approval. But that's not really our concern anyway.
I do think they may care about our opinion of it, even if they ultimately don't have to consider our opinion.
Okay, so what are we doing? Because we've talked about this, it's been on the agenda a couple of times. Let's move this forward. So are we continuing this
Just
or?
a motion to
Yeah, okay.
continue the
I
hearing.
mean, I guess is the applicant ready to ask for are they gonna ask for a continuance to the?
Yeah,
April-
we'll continue to the April 8th meeting.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I will make a motion that we continue the hearing on notice of intent 307-0873 and 307-0872 to our April 8th, 2026 hearing.
I'll second that motion.
And how do we vote? Dodge Shamrock, aye.
Jen DeCarlo, aye.
Maureen Bresnahan, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.
Okay, we'll see you fellows on the 8th.
All right, thank you. Have a nice
hope
night.
things go well till then. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks for
you.
coming. Are you guys there? Who was the fellow I didn't get his name, that spoke with wine in the background?
Oh,
What was his name?
Greg, I don't know.
Anybody know?
We'll pull it off the recording.
I know
His name-
Jay and Brig
Mark
were,
Perlman, is that
Greg.
what you, is
What's
that
his
what you
name?
mean? There was Mark Perlman,
Mark, okay,
Mark was for
Troy Turner,
the
there's a
RDNI.
couple of others,
okay,
yeah.
thanks. Jackie, I don't know, I'm gonna ask you a question, and maybe you guys agree or don't agree, but we could go over this other stuff at another meeting if you don't feel well enough, Jackie. Are you up to continuing?
Oh, I'm up for continuing, but thank you for considering me.
Okay, all right, that's fine with me. Okay, next we have an enforcement order 2025-04 for 51 Asbury Street, map 28, lot 4. It's a restoration plan. It's let's see what else. It's a
Um,
restoration review, and I know the snow has been a problem out there. What else?
So this
I'll let you
is
start it.
for 51 Asbury Street. I did actually get a chance to visit the site when there was not too much snow
Oh, really?
in January before the huge snowstorm.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think there was a little bit of snow, but it wasn't anything serious. But yeah, I think Justine is here,
Mhm.
representing the applicant, or not applicant, but the property owner.
Yeah.
And
William and Sparaj.
yeah, Justine, did you want to present the restoration plan?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Justine Fox, a wetland scientist with Williams and Sparagis. Like Jackie said, representing the client for the restoration plan at 57. Sorry, I can't talk. 51 Asbury Street. The property owner is here tonight as well to help answer any questions. But yeah, I figured I would project and share my screen and show the restoration plan and kind of walk through the key elements of it, and then turn
Good.
it over to Troy, who would like to say a few words, and then discuss any questions or things we need to clear up afterwards, if that sounds good.
Good. Yeah, really good. Thank you.
All right. Let me know if you can see my screen. Give me 1 second.
now we can.
Yep.
Okay, it's showing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So yeah, I had one of our engineers do a rendered version of the plan that I shared with you all, just to kind of make it easier to see and present on tonight. So I'll start with a little bit of background on the property. It's, like we said, it's 51 Asbury Street, which is in far east Topsfield, just about half a mile south of Ipswich Road. It's sandwiched right in between Bradley Palmer State Park to the east across Asbury Street,
Mhm.
and then Mass Audubon's Ipswich River Wildlife Sanctuary on the west side of the Ipswich River. And so it's comprised of 2 parcels. The parcel with the house and other structures is where the frontage to the property is on Asbury Street, and that's where all of the buildings are for 51 Asbury. 51 and 51R are what these two properties are labeled. So 51R is where the majority of the violation took place, the clearing. This property is completely undeveloped except for a wooden footbridge that's been there since at least the 60s. It is subject to an Essex County Greenbelt Conservation Easement boundary, a conservation restriction on this parcel, which extends onto another property to the south and extends a bit more than what's shown on this plan to the north. So that parcel ends with the boundary on Mass Audubon's Ipswich River Wildlife Sanctuary at the center point of the Ipswich River. So yeah, this is generally the property on the plan perspective. I'm going to pull up an aerial, just I think that helps get everyone's visual a little bit better of what the property actually looks like. So the blue is highlighting that conservation restriction parcel, 51R Asbury Street. And it's basically comprised of wetland resource areas, which I'll go over in a second on the plan. But as you can see, it was a little bit drier when we were out there in the beginning of January, Jackie, but in this picture is from April 2025, and you can see where the river's coming all the way up into the trees there. A little bit wetter than when we were out there in January.
The blue line is what?
The blue line is that second parcel with the conservation restriction on it. So there's 51 Asbury Street, which has the house, and then kind of a second parcel with no frontage on the road called 51R. They're both a part of the same property, and most of the violation and unpermitted vegetation clearing occurred on this highlighted parcel, the 51R parcel.
Okay.
And then so yeah, we're looking at the plan again. The area in darker green highlights the area where some vegetation was removed. And I'll have the property owner, Troy, speak to a little more of the reasoning behind that after I'm done talking. But just to go over the wetland resource areas that are in here, I know they're crowded together, so let me know if you have any questions. The mean annual high water of the Ipswich River as defined by the Topsfield bylaw is shown in orange here. That was flagged by myself and Thor Akerley on January 8th after we met with Jackie on site to review the violation. And then also in orange is the 200-foot riverfront area buffer that extends from that line. In yellow is the edge of bordering vegetated wetlands, also flagged by myself and Thor in early January, as well as the 100-foot buffer zone shown in yellow from that line. The light blue line is the boundary for the conservation restriction, which is also the property boundary between 51 and 51R Asbury Street. The black dotted line, dashed line, represents the flood zone from the Ipswich River. It's flood zone AE, and it goes across a few different elevations as it travels on this property. So we didn't put a specific number in there, but this line is representative of the flood zone AE throughout the whole western side of the parcel. I was trying to think if I missed anything. It basically has all the resource areas. It has BVW, flood zone, as well as river and riverfront area. I'm going to bring up some pictures from the site visit that Jackie Thor and I did in early January. So there's not that much snow, as Jackie said. We lucked out and got out there before the snow's been on the ground for like the last 2 months. So this is we're standing right on the boundary of that conservation restriction, facing into the area that was cleared of vegetation. As you can see, there's some trees remaining. some woody debris, but almost everything else was cut down to the ground level. There are a lot of root systems that remain intact out there. None of the root systems were pulled out or ground. They're still there, as well as some like hummocky grassy areas. Nothing was pulled out from the roots and to create even more ground disturbance in this area. It's a little hard to see in the pictures, but it wasn't stripped down to bare ground, and no root systems were ground. So this is standing kind of on an island in the Ipswich River, looking north at the area that was cleared along the river. That flat area where my mouse is hovering is that limit of the conservation restrictions. So that path right there, the violation occurred below that, essentially. And that's just kind of looking at a standing willow tree next to the river on the north side of the restoration area, violation area. I'll bring the plan back up here. So yeah, this side of the plan just kind of shows more details with the trees. As you saw, there were a lot of mature trees left standing. We did identify 6 stumps that were cut during the violation. And as I'll get to later in the plan, we're proposing to replace all of the mature trees that were removed from the site. So as you know, this violation was noticed in the fall, and this commission issued a enforcement order on November 20th for the unpermitted vegetation that you just saw in those pictures. Our client reached out to us in the middle of winter, and we were able to get out there on site with Jackie on January 8th, which is when we conducted the wetland delineations as well. So in order to mitigate for this encroachment into resource areas, we are proposing a combination of removing invasive plants that we noted throughout the area, replacing native overstory trees that were removed, using some of the plants that are on site still to propagate and regenerate shrub vegetation. And we're also proposing application of native seed mixes and installation of herbaceous plugs as needed to kind of fill any other areas that are not vegetated. So this was kind of a tricky site. It is in flood zone, so we didn't want to propose anything that would be complicated with the flood zone there, because I did see a few old aerial images where the area was completely flooded up to that flood zone line. So that made it tricky to call out specific timing for things, just because we won't know exactly when some areas within the restoration area will be accessible due to water levels. So I kind of just generally outlined the steps that should be taken to restore this area, and that the property owner should be working along with any consultants he hires, with a wetland scientist and landscape professionals, and coordinate what makes the most sense with timing and levels of the river in this area. So invasive plant management, obviously we were out there in the winter and the vegetation had been cut in a lot of areas, and it wasn't the easiest to identify at the time, but we noted multiflora, rose, oriental bittersweet, and purple loosestrife as the dominant invasive species in this area. And for now, we're proposing just manual removal of these species. And if after treating it manually for months, it doesn't seem to be working, or it's coming back faster than we can maintain it, we figured we would come back and have a more in-depth plan for chemical treatment or using larger materials like machinery to get invasive species out of that area, just hoping that manual removal works and we won't have to introduce any chemicals into a flood zone or bring any heavy machinery in there. But we understand that these species, especially the multiflora rose and the bittersweet, can be quite aggressive, and that is an option that we should have in our back pocket if the manual removal is not appropriate in this case, long term. Like I said before, we identified 6 stumps of trees that were removed within the restoration area. So I included a list of overstory species that will do well in this wetland area. I listed 15 species, and I said they should be replaced at a 1-to-1 ratio. So from this list of native tree species, 6 should be installed within the restoration area. And I gave some specifications on planting methods, timing, as well as what species should be planted where and how far away from other trees. There's some black willow trees, as well as some silky dogwood or red osier dogwood in the untouched portions of the buffer zone, kind of near this trail to the bridge. This 24-inch tree is a black willow with some live shoots growing off of it as well. And to the south, there was also some dogwood. And Thor's more familiar with this than I am. He's had great success with propagating from willow trees, but you can cut them off of surrounding trees and stick them in the ground, and they will grow new roots and revegetate. So we would like to use some of the existing species on the site to help reestablish the vegetation that was lost as well. And we included a little diagram for any contractor that may be hired to do this work. You use live stakes from either dogwood or willow. And yeah, like I said, it is a little tricky in this area, just for numbers of proposed things. I know we normally like to plan it out exactly and show exactly how many trees versus shrubs versus herbaceous plants we're installing within a restoration area. But since this was such a large area and there's a lot of stumps that are still left intact and could totally revegetate, we do want to just kind of watch and see how things come back. And then as we continue to remove invasive species and some space opens up, we would install new plantings where there's loose soil, where we removed some multiflora rose roots, or if there's any places where like seed mix isn't taking, we might come in with some of the plugs. But it was difficult to assess an exact number of plantings just because we really don't know how it's going to come back just yet. There could be a lot of shrubs that grow and we realize they are invasive and they do need to be removed, or they could be native dogwood species. It was too difficult to tell at the time of the inspection in January. But happy to discuss that more with you guys if you would like to see a more specific list or planting plan. We proposed 2 different seed mixes to be applied throughout the area. Within the wetland itself, a wetland FAC wet seed mix, and then within the area just above the wetland line, a riparian mix that had some more upland species. Jackie mentioned that she would like to see a more New England native species seed mix applied throughout this area. So we're happy to discuss changing that to more local eco type of seed as well. I think a lot of the ones that I originally listed are Pennsylvania ecotypes. I did suggest New England wetland plants as well. They get most of their seeds from New England, it seems like, based off their website and their sourcing. But either way, both lists have species native to Eastern North America that would do well in this area. So we can talk a bit more about that later. But I did include a watering schedule for any new plantings installed. This should really only be necessary if the area is not flooded or if we're in a drought. If the area is completely inundated, no need to add more water. But whenever the trees are exposed and the soil is dry, there's a watering schedule to follow. The debris that I'm gonna bring the photos back up for a second. So there was a tree removed right here within the buffer zone, and some of the tree material was left on the ground here within the conservation restriction. I'm kind of under the opinion that this tree was rotting and going to fall that way anyways, and we should leave the material there to decompose naturally as if the tree fell over naturally, and it can be utilized as habitat. I also called out that any standing dead wood within the restoration area should remain as habitat along the Ipswich River for nesting birds, insects. Standing deadwood versus fallen deadwood helps support biodiversity in riverfront areas, especially. There were some unnatural wood piles. I don't think I have them in the pictures here, but like some wood stacked over here. Anything that wouldn't have fallen naturally should be removed from the area and stored elsewhere on site or removed. We do recommend monitoring, an environmental monitor to communicate with the Topsfield Conservation Commission and document invasive versus native species coverage and just kind of overall health assessment of the area. We recommended at least every once a season at the end of the growing season for 2 years at a minimum, but that's something we wanted to chat about tonight as well, just to get an idea of what the commission thinks is appropriate for long-term monitoring on this project. As discussed with Jackie on site, we are going to propose Topsfield conservation markers to designate this restoration area in perpetuity. We just weren't sure what the best location for those are, so we didn't show them on this plan yet. So I'd like to talk about that as well. If we'd like to just see them at the edge of lawn, along the whole conservation restriction, or just the violation area. And then one more point before I will turn it over to the property owner. So yeah, looking north, you can see where the clearing stopped. So it's very thick. I'm assuming that's what this kind of more upland area within the conservation restriction looked like before removal. But it's incredibly thick with bittersweet vines as well as multiflora rose. And the property owner is looking to improve this area and take care of the river and would like to do other invasive species management on the property as well, which would also help decrease the seed load of invasive species coming into the restoration area while it recovers. So whether that would have to be under a future filing or if under this enforcement order, the commission would be open to some additional invasive species management in the adjacent parts of the property. We're open to discussing that tonight as well. And I think I touched on all my main points. I know it's quite a lot. Happy to answer any questions you may have, but I will stop sharing my screen for now and let Troy say a few words about the property. He purchased it about a year ago and first time living in Massachusetts and definitely wants to take care of this river. So thank you, everybody. I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you.
Stop sharing my screen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Troy. I'm the owner of 51 Asbury Street. Thank you, Justine, and thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Jackie, for taking the time to visit the property. As Justine mentioned, I purchased a property about a year ago. The home needs quite a bit of attention, as well as a lot of the property itself needs a lot of attention. I am hopeful to move there at the beginning of next year. The home is being renovated at this time. I'm doing a lot of this remotely. I just want to give a big, large apology for creating this circumstance and taking your guys' time from other important needs that you guys have. I value conservation land in Florida. We have a nonprofit that has almost 100 acres that is conserved land, and I've actually been involved in a lot of the restoration of that property, and I fully intend to integrate that into 51 Asbury Street. I feel like I am inspired. I feel like there is a silver lining here. I have met with Mary Ellen Dixon out of Ipswich, who is a horticulturist and invasive species specialist. And she is reviewing the plan right now and seeing how she might be able to assist me in this remediation, and as well as creating an optimal habitat moving forward. I feel like this is a real opportunity. And I feel like ages ago, the property could have been massaged to be more ecological and less invasive species to blend right into the Mass Audubon. So I hope to steward that. I do greatly apologize for creating this circumstance. It will not happen again, I assure you that. And I look forward to being in Topsfield, where I will be present for everything that's taking place. I feel like I have all the resources necessary to execute the plan proposed by Florence and Justine. And if any questions, by all means.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. I will mention too, I've been in contact, he's been in contact with Essex County Greenbelt Association as well to keep them in the loop since they hold the conservation restriction on the affected property. But yeah, thank you, Troy.
Yes, thank you. That's correct.
Thank you.
Happy to answer any questions or clear anything up.
But I'd like to say, I mean, the wrong name. I feel like an idiot right now. Pardon me, what was your name again? Not
Troy.
yours.
Troy and Justine.
Yeah, I remember you from last time, and you've been in Florida and probably just got back, or maybe not.
Yes, back and forth, yes.
Yes, that's what I meant. I don't know. I'm very glad you're working with us. It's terrific. And I'd love to see the multiflora rose. I grew up in Maryland, and actually the Department of Agriculture recommended planting those around a certain pond my parents had on their farm, and they spread, and I can't begin to tell you the trouble they caused. That was back when I was a kid, and that was a while ago.
Wow. Yeah.
It has really come a long way. Does anyone on the commission have any questions about all this?
I guess the only question I have or I'll pose is, we weren't given a specific number of plantings. I understand there's complexity there, but then how are we verifying that 75% survive, right?
So I would think of it as more of like a 75% coverage of native species versus like individual plantings surviving, because we'd be taking into account anything that pops from the seed mix, anything that grows back from the natural seed bank, anything that is currently a stump that has new growth and new shoots and survives. And then just comparing that with barren areas and non-native cover, like invasive species. So instead of looking at it like 75% of the plants we installed survived, look at it as more of like a 75% coverage.
The restoration narrative, you explain that some of the things like the amount of plugs to be installed and the number of live stakes are kind of to be determined later on. And that makes sense that it has to be fluid. There's, this is a large area. It's right there on the waterfront. But the restoration narrative said kind of to be determined by a wetlands expert. I think it would be helpful if it would be, to be determined by a wetlands expert in consultation with Jackie. Kind of loop the Conservation Commission back into some of those kind of deferred judgments.
Yeah, it can definitely be an ongoing conversation between wetland scientist Jackie, and it sounds like Troy was chatting with a native horticulturist and invasive species
Mary
specialist.
Dixon,
Mary Ellen Dixon. So we can all be involved in those conversations and make sure we are choosing appropriate species and planting them at times of year that make sense. And yep, definitely involve Jackie in those conversations as well. And open to coming back in front of the commission if anything changes drastically.
So what do you think is the timeline for the restoration under your plan?
So ideally starting this year, this growing season, especially with the invasive species removal, and starting to monitor to see what's growing back naturally.
Mhm.
It does depend kind of on river levels. So I know after the snow melt, the whole area is probably going to be inundated, and we'll have to see what kind of spring we have with rain.
Mhm.
But in order to really see all of the areas that would need a seed mix application and plugs, and where invasive species are growing back, we might need the river to drop back a little bit, maybe like end of summer levels, to really see what's going on beneath the water. So a lot of it depends on the timing with the river
Yep.
and how high it runs this year. But
So-
it's going to be an ongoing monitoring situation between myself, the property owner, the landscaper he hires, and we will definitely communicate river levels and execution of the plan as we're able to. But appreciate you all understanding the kind of complex nature of this site.
I just want to comment that I love the idea of the live stakes and
Yeah, that's
you
really
know,
cool.
the big willow. I think that's spectacular. You don't really see them very often anymore, and it's a nice gesture. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I know my colleague Thor's had great success with willows on other sites, especially in Cape Ann. So hopeful
great.
that that'll be a good option here as well.
I have a willow tree in my yard, but the beavers have killed it.
Oh,
They're like the willow tree, the willow. This is a miraculous willow tree. It went from being vertical to horizontal, and then it lived, and it reflourished. But then the beavers were like, "It's a buffet." The beavers have completely.
the
Well,
resilient trees.
I have one that it's across the street from me, and I appreciate it every spring.
Yep.
Yeah,
Willow
we
is a
are
great tree.
recommending some chicken wire around things that are installed just to give them a chance to really establish before beavers potentially take care of them.
Oh, before the buffet's out.
Yep.
Yep.
At least let them get to maturity before they get eaten.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
Okay, well, do we have a motion?
I mean, I think that
Yeah.
Justine had some questions for
Yeah.
us.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Um,
ahead.
Yeah, I can go through some of the things I would like some clarification on from the commission.
Okay.
I guess we could start with wetland markers. I know Jackie and I talked about putting wetland markers along either the conservation restriction line or the edge of lawn, but wasn't sure exactly where to propose them or how many to propose. Where would the commission like to see those installed on this property?
I mean, edge of lawn kind of makes sense, I think, because they're trying to keep from encroaching beyond the edge of lawn. I don't know what other folks think.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah,
Yep.
that would,
Okay. And that
Yeah.
conservation restriction does extend kind of below other properties and into the woods. So I didn't know if we wanted to kind of designate the entire restriction. Here, let me share my screen one more time. It's a little bit easier to chat about with a plan pulled up. So this is the 1972 conservation restriction plan. So the property labeled VT Stewart is where the houses are today, and then the Essex County Greenbelt parcel, it goes on to a neighboring property, but it does extend farther north and farther south than where the violation occurred and where the edge of lawn is. So that's just why I wanted to ask if you would rather see it right along the conservation restriction line or just kind of along the edge of lawn in here.
Well, we're trying to, does the resource area extend beyond the conservation restriction, I'm assuming. So but the edge of lawn, does that extend beyond into the conservation restriction area? I mean, you can't do anything in there anyway.
It doesn't. It pretty much hugs the line right where the violation occurred, but then it becomes a wooded area along the north side of the property, and the conservation restriction kind of continues through the middle of the woods.
I think we could just put one kind of turning the corner where the wooded area starts to like make it clear that behind there, coming like more to the side is also the edge of lawn and should be maintained as such.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense. I just wanted your opinion on it. So edge of lawn sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as for how many, maybe like I don't know, maybe like 4. What do we think? It's kind of a big
Yeah.
area, so just at regular intervals. I don't think we
Maybe
have
like
a
every,
standard
yeah.
practice for how far apart they are, but
Okay, and I know I mentioned in the narrative pressure treated posts. I meant cedar, so I will make that
yes,
correction as well.
cedar is
Right.
what we require. There is also the question about doing invasive management elsewhere on the property. I think if you wanted to revise the plan to include that, as long as it's shown on the plans as part of this enforcement order, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I would just request that if there's significant areas of invasive management that where there's going to be sort of no vegetation left over, that be replaced with something native. That's up to the commission though, if anyone has a different opinion.
So you're suggesting that if they have to clear a section because the non-native species are so dense that they need to do replantings to compete out? Is that what you're suggesting?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that can be an ongoing conversation with Mary Ellen, Dixon, Jackie, and myself as well.
Yes. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
but we
I
can
think-
definitely revise the plan to show that. I need to get back out there when the snow is melted and continue that wetland delineation line as well, once able to access it. So we'll show that on a new plan as well.
Yeah, I think just making it clear that we don't want it to be just clearing it for review or anything like that. Just we want to make sure that anything that was planted is replaced with something native, so it doesn't just get taken over again by invasives or become like a cleared area.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so I think if the restoration goes beyond the scope of the alteration, I mean, I guess I kind of want the commission's opinion too on would the commission rather see like an RDNI or something like that separately if it's going beyond the area of this plan, or are we considering it just additional restoration to make up for the sort of violation that took place? Because I think it could go either way.
If they're proposing it as part of this restoration, then sure, why not go for it and include it in this process? Obviously, maybe checking in when they go to like the next big area. Does that make, I mean, I think that makes sense.
Well, what's the lay of the land? Is there, are there issues that are more than just kind of normal invasive species?
The most prevalent one was definitely bittersweet. It's weighing down a lot of the native trees that are in the area. There's a chance there could be some other invasives that we did not document while on site in January, just because of the time of year. And we'll definitely be in communication if any new ones pop up. And then, like I mentioned in the narrative, we would come back to Jackie and the commission if manual removal doesn't seem like it's working, and if we would need to pursue using heavier machinery or chemical treatment too. So that can be an ongoing conversation as well. And yeah, I did want to chat about what you think is fair for like monitoring requirements and checking in with the commission, so we can talk about timing of that as well. Definitely recommended at least one big report at the end of each growing season for at least 2 years, but open to other comments about inspection timing as well.
Yeah, I think at least once a year monitoring reports for at least 2 years is kind of the minimum that we usually require. I don't know if with this site being such a large area of clearing and so close to the river, it's so such a sensitive area. I don't know if more than 2 years, like maybe 3 might even be appropriate, but then it also might take a whole year to finish doing all of the planting, and then so we move the 2 years to the following year. So maybe we can see how it goes and see how it looks and decide from there if we need more.
Okay, so right now 2 years from like the end of finishing installation and invasive removal, or
Yeah, and then I know for some projects we've asked for monthly updates on activity that's taking place. I mean that's been more for sort of structures that are encroaching on the wetlands that are being removed. But I don't know, does the commission want to see monthly reports on this or not?
So monthly reports may, be too frequent because
Yeah.
like watching the plants grow.
Right. Seeds come up.
Yeah, I guess
know, really.
for the first year, maybe at least updating me on when the planting is taking place, the level of the river, just as needed would make sense.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah, when we can access to do invasive species removal, we'll definitely keep you updated as well.
Another question you had was about the seed mix. I did notice that the original one was mostly from Pennsylvania, and I was just thinking that it would be better if it's something more from New England. I do know it's difficult to source these things, but I think if it's possible to do, I think New England wetland plants was a fine suggestion, but something from New England would probably be more adapted to our local conditions.
Okay, yeah, and if you know anywhere else that you can buy seeds in bulk, especially for wetland areas, I'd love to know. I know you used to work with native seed sourcing. So yeah, if you know anywhere else, I really know of Ernst and Wetland, New England wetland plants. That's really all I'm aware of for bulk seed purchasing anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a town employee, I avoid recommending specific
No, I
companies. I'm
understand.
just saying New England wetland plants because you suggested that,
Yep.
and I'm fine with that. But yeah, I know there's like there's a Northeast Seed Network that's like a nonprofit that works on like connecting people with or their project that's under, I think they're under Native Plant Trust right now, but they're working with like improving the supply chain and connecting people. So maybe that would be a resource.
Okay, I'll look into that.
And the town of Topsfield Library has a heirloom seed library loan program. So
Oh, wow.
whoever's managing that at the Topsfield Library may be able to be a resource from where to get, other native seeds. But right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I know it's a pretty heavily debated topic in the ecology world right now, like preserving native ecotypes to the maximum extent possible versus potentially getting some genetic diversity in there from other places. And like not having genetic bottlenecks happen with climate change. It's very divided. So yeah, thank you for your opinions on that topic too. I did some research and found very mixed opinions on.
Yeah, no, I
We
know
need a
it's
lot more
very
research.
complicated issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on that. Maybe that's just my little nerd thing to care about the ecotypes, but yeah, if it's not possible, then or it's impractical to get anything from the Northeast, then I understand. But
yeah, we could definitely switch over to the New England wetland seed mix if you'd prefer that. And they said right on their website they mostly try to source from New England, like focus on New England, but they do source for their seed mixes nationally too. So I think
yeah,
they do have better local ecotype options for the most of their seed mix, but yeah, like you said, it's tricky to find a true local ecotype seed mix.
yeah, I understand. Yeah, was there any other questions you had for us?
Well, that about sums it up. I appreciate you all being open to the complex nature of the site and water levels and understanding why it seems as vague as it does right now, but we will be in communication with you throughout this whole process. And
Justine, I thought you gave a nice presentation. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, is that our questions, folks?
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe it sounds like there's some changes to be made to the plan. So we can probably hold off on approving it for now. I assume you wouldn't be starting work right away anyways. So maybe at the next meeting, we can see if there's any updates to the plan and approve something then.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for
Appreciate
coming,
it.
Troy, again.
Absolutely, Dot. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you for the time.
we'll watch the journey, so to speak. So long.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. When is your next meeting? Just
April 8th.
April 8th. Okay, thank you. Yep, have a good night, everybody. Appreciate it.
Good night. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye. All right, Jackie, you're next. The proposed changes to the regulations for the general.
So
Yep.
you folks aren't voting on that? You're not making a
Right,
motion
weren't
on
we
that?
supposed to vote to kind of continue the decision on that enforcement action?
I mean,
or-
it's not really a public hearing, so I don't know if we
Okay,
have to. I think we can just bring it up again at the next meeting.
okay.
But yeah,
Until we
we can make sure it's
adopt
on our next
until we
agenda.
adopt the plan.
Yeah, we would need to amend the enforcement order to basically require that plan to take place because it's not an application to us, it's us making them do something in response to the enforcement order. So that would be the only way for them to have the approval is for us to amend the enforcement order saying you need to do this.
We don't need to do anything, is that correct?
Right.
Right.
For now, we're letting them come back to us for the next meeting.
That's what I assumed. All right.
So for the regulations, I did start working on this. I was going through Jen's edits, but then I got sick and haven't finished that. So try to have something for the next meeting.
So my recommendation, Jen spent a lot of time editing and bringing clarity to the, regulations. So I thought, our starting point should be to, consider and accept her recommended changes, and then do another review to see if we want to make other changes, including to the waiver section.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agreed. I had a few little comments and changes based on Jen's suggestions so far from going through it. So
It just, I have no objection if you guys want to scrap them all. I just want to be really clear.
No.
Like,
no, I think
Yeah.
they're all really great
No,
ideas.
there was a lot of work that went into it, and a lot of your recommended changes enhance clarity. And
Mhm.
let's do
it's like,
that.
I felt like I still believe that the regulations are overly cumbersome and, it's difficult to follow. So when I went through them, it was really more to point out where I felt there were issues. And like, honestly, I was like, you look at like Ipswich, for instance, their regs are like, really short, really easy to follow. So I just want to be really clear. I have no like skin in the game.
Yeah.
I don't care if we keep them, scrap them. I mean, I'm definitely more in favor of something that's like easier to follow, but if we can streamline it, whatever. But no, like seriously, no ego here. I do not care if we keep like
I think we should springboard off of that effort.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a great
Exactly.
effort.
Talk about potentially making some additional changes, substantive changes to streamline and clarify.
Okay, sounds like a plan. So
Yeah,
I know
I'll reach out to you and Maureen once I finish my run through of those.
yeah, we just have
Thank
been
you
too
for doing all
busy.
that work.
Everybody's sick or too busy, or it's like one after the other of just trying to get
Yeah.
together.
Yep.
We'll get it done.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess the next topic is the Essex County Conservation District meeting. I got a flyer for this and just wanted to share it with you all that it's conservation related and they're having this meeting at the fairgrounds on March 18th and all are welcome to attend. Not affiliated with me specifically, but just an event locally. I guess the next thing is the meeting minutes from February 11th. Did anyone get a chance to look at them?
No, I didn't. Anybody else?
Nope. So
Anybody get it?
let's defer that.
Okay.
Good idea. Okay. Do we need a
Um,
motion for that or no?
no, I don't think so if we just
Okay.
defer it. Any other business at the discretion of the chair before I go into my report?
No.
Okay. Yeah, my update is that I attended the spring MACC conference on February 28th. It went really well. I went to workshops on agriculture regulations, utility right-of-way maintenance, and stormwater regulations. So that was all very informative. I'm also currently working with IRWA on applying for MVP and CRMA grants to address stream barriers and flooding issues in the Howlett Brook watershed. So we're hoping to submit that next week. And then the Sustainability Advisory Committee is hosting a spring speaker series at the Topsfield Library. The first topic is gardening to support monarchs and pollinators, which will be at 6 p.m. on March 26th. And then the following one is about composting, and that's on April 9th, both at 6 p.m. at the library. So I hope some of you can make it. That's that. Oh, and I posted all the event flyers in the folder if anyone wants to take a look.
So, anything else from anyone?
Nope.
Then I'd like a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Everybody awake there?
I second that motion.
And how do we vote? Todd Shamrock, aye?
Jen DeCarlo, I.
Brian Bresnahan, aye.
Ben Kayla, aye.